Okay then, BF5, I'm sure you've all seen the reveal trailer. Action-packed and a ton of new stuff to digest in there. In this video, I've got the behind the scenes scoop on a load of new gameplay features of this game that will change how Battlefield plays significantly. There are some massive sweeping new features and adjustments to talk about here, so let's get stuck right in with the facts. BF5 will have multiplayer set in World War II, and at launch it will take us to France, Norway, Rotterdam and the North African desert, playing in new, untold and unexpected locations. There will be a co-op mode called Combined Arms and also single player war stories. In this game you can create your own company of soldiers, weapons and vehicles, all of which are highly customizable in how they look and play. There is no premium pass for this game. One of the coolest new multiplayer features in this game is fortifications, which are military assets and structures that you can build on every level. What exactly can you build? Well, stuff like sandbags, foxholes, trenches, barbed wire, tank stoppers, machine gun nests, cannons. You can reinforce destroyed buildings, building back cover and locking down defensive positions. Every class can build the basic stuff, but the support class is the only class that can build offensive defensive options such as machine guns, field cannons, and also is much faster at building everything else. Can you build stuff anywhere you want? No. There are predetermined positions with plenty of options everywhere, such as on flags, between the flags in flanking routes, and most of the buildings that can be destroyed can be rebuilt with fortifications. I even saw ladders being built in a behind the scenes video. But what are the implications of fortifications? Well, it has the chance to become a new pillar of the Battlefield franchise. Players can now build their own front lines and heavily fortify flags to defend them. And with the old conquest system coming back, you'll want to hold on to every flag that you can. Moving on, the next big change, attrition and physical interactions only. These are absolutely huge and change the pace of the game completely, raising the skill floor, the skill ceiling and encouraging more squad play and team play. What is attrition? Well, it's a few things. To start off, you'll no longer fully auto regenerate to 100 health. The health bar is kind of in stages now, and if you fall below one of those stages, you'll only regenerate to the maximum limit of the stage that you fell below. If you want to get all of your health back, you'll need to find a med pack. Massive change for the franchise. This means that you could be in a firefight with someone, kill them, take some damage, and you might only auto regen to, let's say, 33 health points. So now what do? You really need to think and prepare your next step. But sidestepping for a second here, let's take a look at physical interactions. Everything that you do in this game requires a player input and an action, and the action can be seen. This means that if you want a med pack, you've got to go over to a med kit or a supply depot and interact with that object. You'll then see an animation of your soldier picking up that health pack and you'll start to regen health. The same goes for ammunition too. If you want ammo, you've got to go and pick it up for yourself. This means no more abstractions in the game, no more magic medic and ammo auras that passively give you health and ammo back, and that's a huge gameplay change. Another example, if you want to do a ledge grab, which is now in the game, you've got to time it right and press the key to grab the ledge at that right moment. This also means things like no automatic spotting, and you need to be very active in your gameplay moment. In fact, spotting has changed completely, no more shooting at 3D icons and Doritos. You have to scan the world, look carefully and listen. Did that tall grass over there just move? Then maybe there's a player crawling through it. So in BF5 you're truly reading the world and listening to it rather than using the user interface or the HUD. No more playing from the minimap. DICE didn't go into massive details about the spotting changes, but they did say that you can still call out where vehicles and enemies are, but it works differently now. I imagine that it's some kind of contextual ping system like in Incursions or Rainbow Six Siege. So with the new attrition system, you'll be spawning into the game with much less ammo too. Reduced but capable. So this means that you can go into combat straight away, but after a couple of fights, you'll be out of ammo. But that means that there's more ways now to get ammo. Ammo packs, crates, supply depots that you can build on flags and fortify. You can even loot a small amount of ammo from a person that you just killed. Again, all with a physical interaction. No more magic AoE effects anymore. So all of this introduces a step of planning and preparation for the player, aiming to eliminate that spawn run die mentality. And it's starting to sound like this is a much more tactical and strategic game. Let's make up an example. Say I'm an assault player not sticking with my squad and running off to attack the B flag on my own. I take out 2 players defending it and I get shot to, let's say, 30 HP, so I go and hide behind a wall. If this was BF1 or BF4, I'd wait in cover, regen after a few seconds, my ammo's good, and I'd just attack the flag head on. In BF5, that wouldn't be a smart move, and I'll have to think about it more. Now I'm not going to auto heal to full health, and I'm low on ammo because I spawned in with low ammo. What do? Do I fall back and look for a supply depot? Do I take a longer flanking route? Do I chance it and see if I can loot some ammo off the guys that I just killed? Risky, but could work. Or should I wait for my squad before we push onto the flag? It's just adding an extra moment of preparation and mindfulness, ultimately on paper, giving more depth, making the game more interesting, tactical, and team play orientated, and I think that's a great move for the franchise. It's going to be a lot more challenging now. Another major change is the revive system. A revive in BF5 is no longer just the action of instantly sticking a needle into a lifeless ragdoll on the ground. No more revive trains in this game. What do I mean by this? Well, now there's a full-on revive animation that takes a few seconds to complete. You do the revive, you'll be face to face with that person, see their facial customization, what they're wearing. You can initiate that revive from any angle and your character will keep a low profile, and you can cancel this animation anytime if you want to, but it's a definite player choice and action that takes time to complete. So let's say, what if the body of your teammate is in the middle of the street and it's too much of a risk to do this animation? Well, you could put some smoke down and go for it that way, or instead, how about this? The ragdolls in this game are now server-side, and that means that you can drag them. Yes, you can now grab your buddy's leg, arm, head, whatever, and drag them into cover to revive them. And another great addition, you can now revive any member of your squad, no matter what class you are. Great move. I think that helps to keep squads together, and it means less downtime, more team play. The only caveat to this is that a squad revive, or a buddy revive as it's called, is a much longer revive animation than a medic revive, and a squad revive will not revive you to full health points. Say you get killed and then you're on the floor in a revivable state. In BF5, you can actually look around 360 degrees and call for help if you want by sticking your hand out and screaming. You saw that in the trailer with the guy on the stairs. The other option, of course, is to wait or to force a bleed out. And just going back to the ragdolls being server-side, that also means that everyone is synced up with the position of bodies on the ground, and ragdolls now have physics, and aren't just static bodies on the floor anymore. If someone dies and their body falls down a hill, it will now interact with stuff on the way down, like knocking over tall grass, or if it lands in a puddle, it's going to make a splash. Next up, gunplay. Hugely important. A lot of people did not like the gunplay in BF1. In BF5, it's completely changing. That means no more visual recoil at all. Every gun now has a unique recoil pattern that's predictable to a certain extent and can be learnt and mastered. What DICE are doing here is to reduce the impact of spread unpredictability to increase the ability for the player to control and learn a weapon, more accuracy and more precision. So you'll understand right away when you start shooting, is this a weapon that I should be only bursting with 3-round bursts, or is this a weapon that I can get away with a 5-round burst before the recoil starts to kick in like crazy. To me, this says higher skill ceiling on the gunplay. Also, if your hand is on the trigger and your gun is facing forward, you can always shoot it. If you're doing a one-handed vault and facing forward, then you can shoot. You'll be inaccurate, but you can do it. Same goes for jumping too, but when jumping you can only shoot from the apex of your jump and down. Again, inaccurate, but agency always. LMG bipods, they say, are now much easier to use and set up too. And BF5 has bullet penetration, meaning that you'll be able to shoot through buildings with thin walls, wood and sheet metal. Let's say you've got an MG42 set up and you want to demolish the squad that you just saw run into a wooden building, go ahead. And that brings me nicely onto movement. The movement system in BF5 has been completely overhauled. The most striking change is that you can now dive forward, back, left and right. And after you dive, if you want, you can stay on the ground, crawl backwards and shoot. You can stay on your side and shoot. It's very similar to the prone system in Arma or Rainbow Six Siege. And you see this in the trailer a couple of times, and it's just adding more options for the player. But does this mean that dolphin diving is back? Well, I spoke to the devs and they told me that there's a big delay after you dive before you can shoot. So hopefully that's going to be kept in check, and they say that they're well aware of how you can abuse systems like that. Another thing for movement, you can now crouch sprint. A lot of people have been wanting that, so this means that you can keep a low profile as you dash from cover to cover. Awesome. You can burst out of windows now and commando roll when you land. Keep that momentum going, no more having to destroy the window first before you vault out of it like in BF1. The third person character models interact with the environment way more too. If there's tall grass or reeds, players will interact with them and knock them down. If a player is sprinting in water, then the animation will change to a high knees animation and it looks like you're wading. Third person characters will put their weight into objects as they crash into them too. Another thing that you saw in the trailer, grenades. You can now throw back grenades that are on the ground, catch them in the air, throw them back, and even shoot them when they're in the air to explode them and cause damage. With the new attrition and limited ammo system, there's going to be much less grenades overall on the Battlefield 2. Praise the Lord for that one. You can now tow things with vehicles. Saw that in the trailer. With certain vehicles like tanks and half-tracks, you can hook things up to your vehicle and tow them. Things like stationary anti-air guns, no longer stationary. And it can be used by a teammate as you're driving it too. What about supply depots? Do you want to be the guy that delivers health and ammo to people with his truck? Well, you can do that now. Do you want to tow a field cannon on the back of a Tiger tank? You can do that. This stuff is cool. It's sandboxy. You could tow stationary AA weapons to a key location on the map, couple that with some fortifications and build a cannon, be creative and make your own front lines. That's something completely new for the Battlefield franchise. How about destruction? Well, of course, it's in the game. But destruction has been revamped and more drawn out now. For example, if you fire a shell into a building and the shell explodes inside that building, the walls and windows will explode outwards. If the explosion happens outside the building will break inwards. If a tank drives through a building, it won't just play all of the effects at once like in BF1. Instead, the walls will crack and bend depending on how the tank has entered that structure. Debris will fly and drop onto the tank. Bricks will rain down onto the tank. Parts of the wall and building will fall over time. So what they're doing here is dragging the destruction moments out a bit and making them more believable. Next up, let's talk about squads for a second. BF5 is heavily focusing on squad play and team play and keeping your squad together. The developers said that they figure the most fun that you have in Battlefield is when you're playing with a squad, those awesome team play moments. So if you join a game in BF5, you're automatically going to be put into a squad. You can choose to leave the squad if you want to go solo, or make your own of course. And there's a new squad spawning system too. So say for example that you die and you aren't revived, you're now going to go to the squad deploy screen, which is before the tactical map deploy screen. And in that squad deploy screen you get a nice big full screen live feed with a third person camera of what your squad members are doing in real time, and you can switch between them too, so you know exactly what you're getting into if you choose to spawn on one of them. And this means that spawning on your squad is quicker than going all the way back to the tactical map deploy screen. But if your squad wiped, it means a lot now, and you'll go back to the tactical map screen anyways. So if you're the last surviving member of your squad, you get a notification on your screen saying you are the last surviving squad member, therefore informing that player that they should be very careful and plan their next moves well to avoid being squad wiped, because that means so much more now. And in the deploy screen, you'll be able to see who is spawning on who. Very useful. So, with all these incentives for squad play, what are the rewards for sticking together in a squad, dropping health, ammo, taking objectives and killing enemy players? Well, funny you ask that. Squad reinforcements are in the game, or squad call-ins as they're called. They're the new kids on the block. If you do well as a squad, you will accumulate squad points that can call in special things, but only the squad leader can spend those points, putting emphasis on the role of the squad leader. And at the moment, the call-ins are as follows: V1 or JB2 rockets, as seen in the trailer, supply drops with ammo and health in them, a smoke barrage that you could use to push a point, heavy weapon pickups, read not hero kits, so these are weapons that are powerful and you could use for a period of time. Think about the battle pickups in BF4, doesn't change your class. Elite classes are completely gone, by the way, as are the behemoths. And finally, another call-in is squad-only vehicles like the Churchill Crocodile Flamethrower Tank or the Sturm Tiger. So as a gameplay example, if the squad has scored enough points, the squad leader could bring up a radio, call in for a V1 rocket, bring out binoculars, mark the location and order it in. V1 rockets are great at destroying all of the fortifications on a point, so you could then push in more effectively and take out enemies, of course. Large explosions in this game can knock you over now too if they're not fatal. So I've not really talked about classes or soldier customization, weapons, vehicles, progression, etc. Well, the 4 classes will return: Assault, Medic, Scout, Support, and in this game you create a soldier and then you will add them to your company of soldiers, and then you can customize stuff like their gender, how their face looks, their face paint, hair, facial hair, what are they wearing, their hats, helmets, their jackets, their pants, their shorts, accessories, prosthetic arms, and you can then choose a class archetype for that soldier, and these are highly customizable within a skill tree type system. The purpose of the archetypes is to create clear and understandable roles and fantasies within that specific class, and I will be doing a full dedicated video on all of this stuff and progression, as it's just so complicated and in depth now, but just to give you a quick rundown of it here. So each archetype can specialize in something. So let's say, for example, an assault. You could be specializing in anti-tank or anti-infantry, a mix of both, but you can also get highly specialized archetypes called exotics that are really good at one particular thing. One example they gave us of an exotic archetype was the Recon Paratrooper, a stealthy short-range behind enemy lines guy who uses a suppressed SMG and silent gadgets like pistols and garrotes. And that archetype also came equipped with silent footsteps, smokes and throwing knives, so that's really changing the perception of what a Recon class is. And on top of this, you can change and add specialization trees such as agility, flak armor, suppressive resistance. The more you play a class, the more you'll level it up and get access to more archetypes and specializations within that class. It's a similar system for guns too. You create a gun, let's say an MP40, and then go about playing with that, leveling it up and unlock specializations and making gameplay choices in a skill tree on that gun. Specializations are the only thing that affect how the gun plays or feels, such as bipods or bayonets and more. Everything else is just visual, which means that on each gun there will be 5 to 7 different elements of it that you can customize and change to really make it your own. Stocks, sights, muzzles, chassis, skins, leaves on the front, cloth on the back, straps, etc. But the key thing to note here is that gameplay and visual customization are separate. Specializations is stuff that affects the gameplay, the handling of the gun. The look of the weapon is just visual without impacting gameplay. Tanks and air vehicles are the same too. So you create a tank, choose the gameplay specializations for it, and then you can make it look like your own with paint jobs, sandbags, boxes. You can put teddy bears on the side, horses' heads, bottles, and all sorts of visual flair. It's important to note too that there are asymmetric vehicle choices in BF5. Different vehicles for different factions. So one team might have a tank that's big and slow, but it packs a load of damage. And the other team might have a tank that's quicker, smaller and more agile, but it has less health and less damage. Or you might get a tank that's a glass cannon. We're coming to the end now, I promise, nearly there. I know this has been a long video, but there's just so much new stuff here that I had to reveal and talk about and cover, and I know you guys want to hear this kind of stuff. There's a new 64-player game mode in the game called Grand Operations, which sounds very fun. Again, I'll go into more detail in a dedicated video soon. But the gist of it is that it takes place over 4 fictional days, and each day is a full match, and you'll always advance to the next day. It's not going to end early like it does in BF1 if you find yourself in a grindfest and you can't progress. And Grand Operations will have different objectives per day that can be changed in a modular fashion. So on the first day, you might be attacking as an airborne, jumping out of a plane to pick up bombs and take out artillery pieces on the ground. Yes, actually jumping out of a plane when you choose to. Day 2, the main invasion force has landed, and now it's a breakthrough mode from operations in BF1, sector capture. and how well or bad you did on day 1 has an impact on day 2. Say that you took out only 1 of 4 artillery guns on day 1, then you're going to hear and see an impact because of that, and that means that you might have less respawns, for example, or you might not have the same amount of vehicles. Day 3, switch to a new map, and this could be Frontlines, for example, so new experiences every day as you go through. And day 4 only has a potential to be played. Get this, if there isn't a clear winner between the teams on day 3, it will go on to day 4 and what they're calling Final Stand. And this is an extremely tense game mode where you spawn in with 1 life, 1 spawn only, with your team. You've got significantly reduced resources, about 1 magazine in your gun, and there could be extreme weather, snowstorms, raining, and you've got to fight down to the last man standing to win the entire grand operation. Sounds awesome and very tense. And again, because of the modular design of grand operations, DICE can change these experiences on the fly. So one day could be different to the next day on another real life day, if you get what I mean. So it could be that you get low ammo for this particular day, or only these certain vehicles, or only these weapons, or only these weapons for certain classes. Grand Operation sounds like it's shaping up to be a fan favourite. Co-op mode then, I did mention that at the start. We didn't get much info on this, but what we did get is the following. It's called Combined Arms, and 4 players will get together to play through a variety of missions like paratroopers behind enemy lines, high stakes, do you want to push for a final objective or do you want to extract earlier from the level with less reward. DICE have built a new dynamic mission creator and AI for these co-op experiences with new challenges and random objectives to keep it fresh. Combined Arms sits between single player and multiplayer as a safe haven for players in a creative sandbox where you can learn the ropes of Battlefield and have a laugh, and all of this will feed back into your soldiers and company. So that means that we've got multiplayer and co-op parity there. You can use the soldiers and weapons you've created in both of those game modes. And to wrap up, just a few extra snippets that I thought you guys might want to know about. So I asked about suppression, but they didn't give any answers on that. They're looking into it. All of the logic in the game can now be controlled server side, so if something is broken or not working well, it can be changed instantly and updated on everyone's game without the need for a big patch. So stuff like cap times, respawns, time to bleed out, etc. No more waiting months for patches. They're also promising that communication between devs and community will be significantly better with this game, promising more roadmaps and visibility. As I mentioned, no more premium pass that you've got to buy. It looks like all of the maps and modes, new content, etc. after launch will be free. No more separating the community in a Battlefield game when DLC is released. Finally, DICE are calling the new progression arc in this game and content drops Tides of War, and these will include daily, weekly and monthly challenges with overarching chapters and quest lines that reward you with unique items and cosmetics. Also included will be new maps, game modes and limited time experiences. So there'll be a wide range of map types in this game and a ton of flexibility, maps that will offer complete crushing Battlefield chaos, and also more slow paced experiences on really big, larger maps with more lulls and tempo that goes up and down. Confirmed game modes so far are Conquest, Grand Operations, TDM and Domination. They wouldn't tell me anything about RSP, I did ask. That shush animation from the trailer, you will be able to experience that. It could possibly happen in a game. Transport vehicles are live on the map and you can jump into them. Combat vehicles spawn from the tactical deploy map. And last but not least, as with the multiplayer, war stories will focus on the untold stories of World War II, real people facing big problems that changed the tide of the war. One example they gave us was where you're playing as a resistance fighter in Norway in 1943 during the German occupation, fighting to save her family. Whew, okay, that was a lot of stuff, but hopefully that gives you a good idea of what to expect from Battlefield 5. For me, really, the multiplayer changes are the key things here. That's the core components of Battlefield, and the most important striking changes are the lack of auto-regenerating health, limited ammo, building fortifications is huge, the fact that you've got to interact with everything now to get it, skill-based gunplay, yes, squad revives and a massive emphasis on squad play and team play, 3D spotting changes, minimal HUD. On paper, this all sounds like a much deeper and more engaging tactical game, and I'm really looking forward to that. It sounds very different from what we got in BF1, which was super accessible at launch. Now there are a lot of important details we don't know yet, of course, and I'm sure that we'll get way more gameplay and information from EA Play, which is only a couple of weeks away. Fun times ahead. And that's all for today's video, guys. I do appreciate you tuning in and being here on the regular. This took me a long time to put together and months of work really, so if you enjoyed it, please leave me a like, that would be much appreciated. Consider sharing it too if someone's interested to know more about the game. If you didn't like it, dislike it, let me know your thoughts on BF5 initial impressions down in the comments below. Subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you in the next one.